Hi, everyone. So, validating Wi-Fi using your customer's phone. So, hi, I'm Ben, and most people know me for being somebody just fascinated about the way devices can be used to assess Wi-Fi and give you some feedback. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it today, and I'm going to get you to join in and help me with a live demo, maybe, if it works. So, we know how to validate Wi-Fi using traditional tools, and none of these should ever go away, right? We need to use these tools always, right? They're common things, but there are times when you can't, or maybe shouldn't. If you're walking in difficult areas, and we'll come to that, if you are not on location, you have customers in certain places, or if you just need to know the perspective of the device because you're troubleshooting something, and you cannot find it out from any other way, then really using a client is the way to do this, because it'll give you all that information, right? So here's something I showed in Prague as well. You know, how do you determine that real user experience there, right? You can't. It's difficult. It's crowded. If you walk around with all your gear on, you're going to end up in the way. Yeah, what about there, or there, or there, right? Look at that. It's like devices are everywhere, and the more crowded it is, I'm not going to be bumping my way around with a kit. I need to know what those devices were experiencing at that time. So it's only 20 minutes, and I give a whole deep dive on this, right? So there's a quick insight. Come and see me if you need to know more. But one of the things that is really, really important to a lot of people is how did devices roam? That's a big thing, because we can go around and we can measure signal strength, but we don't know exactly what devices do, how they hang on to APs, how they hand over, right? So there are apps for Android and iOS that you can put on a phone or somebody else's phone, somebody in a place where you are not, and you might be making a change behind the scenes. I'm going to change the power on a few APs to make roaming better. Is roaming better? Do I have to travel 100 miles to go and find out? How can my customer give me that information? Well, with the right information from their own devices, and I'm talking about putting on $30 pieces of software compared to what you're normally used to, right? They can share, and you can validate. That was iOS. That was an application that I create called N-Oversight. This is another application which I love called Analyty. Again, the same kind of thing from Android, but even more data, as you might expect, on exactly how devices roam. What happened? What was the signal strength like? What was the signal-to-noise ratio like? What was the MCS ratio like? MCS like? Let's put it into practice, right? So in a stadium concourse, this is real. This was done in a stadium in the UK, in the south of the UK, and there was a problem, and so we had people walking around with just devices, right? No Ekahau, no Hammoners, no anything, right? They're all good things, but just in this situation, we're talking about walking on a concourse where you'll just get bumped by people all the time. You can already see, by applying some thresholding on some data that came back to me, and I wasn't there, so I was just at home, setting some thresholds up of where I think a device should be operating, I can see there's an area that's kind of red and orange. Immediately, I'm dragged towards this. Now, I've hidden the AP names and so on for customer confidentiality, but that area is interesting to me. That area is telling me there's something going on that I need to know more about. If I look further in, if you were looking on the controller, or if you were looking anywhere within the network at that point in time, you would have seen the client connected. The client was not using Wi-Fi as its primary data path because it had assessed it as poor quality, and it was using Wi-Fi Assist in that moment to handle most of its data over the cellular pathway for Wi-Fi Assist compatible applications. Actually, what had happened was the concourse was set up fine, and when somebody had validated it with their expensive tools, it was great. And then in the UK in our stadiums, we've got called segmentation dividers. So the away fans are not allowed to mix with the home fans because they fight. So they put up these big metal barriers, and when they put them up right next to the AP, you create a big problem. And we found that, right? And we found it with somebody walking around with a device. And that could have been an employee of the club. Nobody needed to know what they were doing. They were just being part of the crowd. Okay, so that was hidden. Packets and AP logs and all those sort of things wouldn't have told us about Wi-Fi assist. So that's roaming. Spot tests are good, right? So you might be supporting an enterprise. You might have a boardroom, really important, right? CEO wants to come in their boardroom and get great experience. So how do you do this? So the Analyty tool has created a new thing called a validator. I highly recommend this. Again, we're talking $30 tools where you put it on somebody else's device, they run the application, they go to a location, you design the test, they go to the location, they press a button, you get a report. Is it what I expected it to be? Okay? You can actually create that checklist and customize it. It's something we do. And you can send it for remote execution. So when they press the button, logs just appear in your inbox. Oh, they did a test. Oh, what was the quality of that test? Right, let me see if I can do it live. Let's check the network here. So if I do that and press start, and we are at WLPC. So yeah, I've got good signal strength. That looks good. I'm connected to the right kind of network. It's validating against some parameters that I set. I should be on at least a Wi-Fi 5 network. I should be in 5 gigs. Okay, cool. It'll spend some time measuring the spectrum. I wonder what's going to happen here. Incidentally, CCI is the same, will be counted if you put multiple SSIDs on the same AP. So this is not going to go well for it. No. Anyway, you get the picture, right? So there's a test, and that's going to come to my inbox very shortly. So what comes to my inbox? Oh, quite good, right? A histogram of the RSSI, a channel plan, or ACI and CCI, kind of what were the interferers. This is really good. This, for you, as the network people who put that in there, and it's your stamp on the design, can say, I validate this when I'm doing it, and now they go in the boardroom and you get something and it's way out of whack, you kind of go, something's changed. Something's not the way I left it, and then you can start to ask more questions. So this is, again, just, the customer doing it on their devices. The insights that you get from the device are also valuable, right? This is us in our deep dive. I took it from the deep dive last night, because we were doing the deep dive and we were looking at this tool. And I was like, I'm not connected to the best server, right? The API I'm connected to is neg 50. There is one in there at neg 40. Why am I not connected to the highest RSSI, right? Well, it's device logic. So the insight that you will get from the device logic is, well, actually, neg 50 is perfect. I'd love connect to neg 50, but why should I go to neg 40 if the utilization is 51% when my neg 50 is 24%? Clearly, that's great. That's a good choice. And you might be troubleshooting all day long. Why did it not, the light's not the right color. It didn't roam. Why am I connected over there? Because the device said that's a good choice, right? This is us this morning. So what can we learn as well? So the devices create logs, and they log and they log and they log all the time. And then you can capture that log and you can consume it. And if you consume it, you can see what's going on. This is our conference room right here this morning, and the yellow bars show what the iPhone reckons, it calls CCA, right? It's made up of 3 things. The green is yourself, your utilization of the network. The yellow is other Wi-Fi, and the red is other interference that it couldn't detect as Wi-Fi. It might be Wi-Fi, it just didn't realize it, wasn't able to determine that. So you can see that during our conferences this morning, The utilization's peaking and dropping and peaking and dropping and peaking and dropping. I'd like to think that it's peaking between the discussions and that none of you are doing anything right now, and it's dropping during the discussions. So I'm going to do something, and it's important that you all just stop what you're doing on your devices. Stop using the network. Oh yeah, stop using the network while I talk about this, because I want it to go flat for a little while. So what we can see this morning is during that sort of peaky period, we're getting a period where there's lots of high transmission, retransmissions. So packets are not getting through. If you guys are saying, why are my pages not loading? Why is it slow? This network, pressing the button. That's what's going on. There's high congestion, there's retries, but it's working. It's just, that's why things are slow. Right, let's try again. So, all right, this is a live view coming from my phone, and I started this just before the last session, so it was quite peaky at the beginning. Clearly, since I've been talking, you guys have got off the network. This must be interesting. It's good. Right, if you can all now do a speed test, so just get ready. Let's crash it. I'm not going to get kicked out, am I? He says okay. Right, okay. At the same time, I'm going to try and use the network, so just hold your horses. Right. All right, I'll give you a count in. I'll say 3, 2, 1, go, and let's just go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Do speed test. I'm going to go to... This might not work. This is live demo-itis coming up here. Oh, look, I can't eat... You broke it. What did you do? Yeah, it was ambitious, but you broke it. You got 680K? Oh, well, he's flying. Yeah, so, okay, it broke so badly I can't even connect. Brilliant. This is good. This is good. Fantastic. I'll go back to the presentation. Ambitious, I know. We can look at this. Come and find me afterwards, right? Because what we'll do is we'll dump a log off this device, and we'll come back and see exactly what happened when the device is not trying to find its way through being in a completely crapped out network. Right, okay, so when a problem has happened, so you've got customers who are saying, right, okay, well, I've got issues. The boss this morning was like really upset because it just wouldn't work. Let's recreate the problem. Oh, it's working now. I don't know what's going on, right? We can, on both Android and Apple devices, you can capture a log and you can look back in time. I talked about this in previous ones. You can look at my previous presentations. So if we capture those analytics and look back in time, we can then load that in and we get back to these reports. So this is a similar thing, right? So I was sitting in here this morning. I came in on Hilton Honors, because that's what I was connected to in my room, and then at some point I then changed WLPC, and you can see the channel that I was on was extremely low CCI, then it went high, and the transmission rates went up. So you can see when somebody says, oh, well, I walked into this room, and I had a problem. This because I happened to change, in this case I forced a network change, but it could be a particular AP, it could be the location, whatever. Whatever I did, I moved, and there you can see immediately that area is congested, that area's got that kind of issue. Here's one that I've used. It's a bit of a high-level overview, but this is a favorite one. Who's had to debug radius and ePOL traffic over Wi-Fi? Yeah. So when you look in the logs, there is a ton of information, client-side, right? So especially if you're doing something where it's maybe a third-party radius, you can't get to it, you can look in the client logs and you can find out, again, after the fact, this morning something didn't work. I walked into a location, I didn't connect to my enterprise network. Give me logs, right, let's have a look. And you can see that, yeah, it received a failure ID 4, right? So disassociation from the network and so on. What happens after you do that, right? So, right, okay, but it's still happening. I don't know why the problem's still there, where you can go in and say, well, look, because there was no internet or because there was some kind of fault, you get onto a block list. So this is an Android log, Wi-Fi block list monitor, and it just shows you exactly what you're seeing there, that there's a block list, there's a network validation failure or a internet not available, it gets on the block list, and then look at the bottom line. Yes, but I'm in an environment where there's nothing else that I can connect to, so I'm going to have to start ignoring my block list, and I'm going to connect anyway. So you might start to learn about that environment. Again, you didn't need to be there, you just pick up this information. And then finally, we can profile the environment. So this is a report. So you take the logs and you come and you say, okay, right, I'm looking at a walk test that was done in the environment from 10 till 10 past 10 or something like that. And you can see how congested it was, how many devices were accessing, or how congested it was by the number of devices, the number of sessions where other devices were dominating the network. And you can start to see, It lost the beacons at some point, so actually it got so congested that this network wasn't even able, this device wasn't even able to hear the beacons anymore. Okay, that's it. So I encourage you all to just get on board with using devices. There's the QR codes for the Apple and Android apps that you can get hold of. They both work in a free mode, so you don't even need to pay anything. You can just get them going. They're both limited, so you can pay and free the limits, and that's okay. But as I said, they're like $30 items, so it's really easy. And then you can give them to your clients or encourage your staff or clients or anybody, customers, to use them. And because it's customary, those of you who come here every year to buy their repeat annual subscription of the desktop version, there's your discount code that you all love and can renew with. That's the vendor bit over, and I will give you a couple of minutes back. Thank you.